In 2017, a small game appeared on Steam, not with the fanfare of a blockbuster launch, but with the quiet confidence of a dream long in the making. Hollow Knight arrived from Team Cherry, an independent studio of just 3 people working out of Adelaide, Australia. Ari Gibson, William Pellon, and Jack Vine had staked everything on a single idea: a vast, hand-drawn world hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be explored. What players found was extraordinary. A silent protagonist, a small, nameless knight descending into the ruins of Hallownest, a once great kingdom consumed by plague and forgotten by time. There were no tutorials shouting instructions, no quest markers guiding the way. Just the soft crunch of footsteps, the distant echo of dripping water, and the unmistakable feeling that something enormous lay below. This was not a game that held your hand. It trusted you to be curious. It trusted you to be brave. And millions of players answered that call, discovering one of the most acclaimed indie games ever made. A game born from a Kickstarter campaign that asked for $50,000 and received nearly 3 times that amount. A game that proved you don't need a 100-person studio to build something timeless. This is the story of Hollow Knight, how 3 friends turned one impossible idea into a modern masterpiece, and how a tiny knight became an icon. Before there was Hollow Knight, there were 3 friends who shared a dream. Ari Gibson was an animator and artist, meticulous, obsessive, capable of pouring weeks into a single background. William Pellon was the programmer, the technical architect, who could translate wild creative ambition into working systems. And Jack Vine composed the music, building soundscapes that would become inseparable from the world they scored. They met through Adelaide's small but passionate game development community. None of them had shipped a commercial title. None of them had a studio, an office, or any real budget. What they had was a shared love for games like Metroid and Zelda 2, a fascination with insects and forgotten kingdoms, and an unshakable belief that they could build something meaningful. In late 2014, they launched a Kickstarter campaign with a modest goal of 57,000 Australian dollars. They exceeded it. The community saw something in those early screenshots. The hand-drawn characters, the atmospheric lighting, the promise of a vast underground world waiting to be explored. When the campaign ended, Team Cherry had the funding to build their vision, but the game they delivered would be far bigger, far deeper, and far more ambitious than anything they originally promised. It would take them nearly 3 years working out of a small house fueled by passion and instant noodles, and the result would change indie gaming forever. Hallownest is not a level. It is a world. A fallen civilization buried beneath a quiet, forgotten village called Dirtmouth. And your journey into its depths is one of the greatest feats of environmental storytelling in modern gaming. The forgotten crossroads greet you first, a tangled network of tunnels crawling with infected husks. It feels hostile, confusing, overwhelming, but then you push further. Green path opens up in a burst of emerald light and drifting spores. The fungal wastes hum with bioluminescent life. Crystal Peak glitters with mineral veins that catch the light. And then, the City of Tears. A vast, rain-soaked metropolis suspended underground, its towers silent, its streets empty, its beauty almost unbearable. Each zone in Hallownest has its own identity, its own color palette, its own enemies, its own soundtrack, its own mood. Deepness suffocates you with claustrophobia and darkness. The Queen's Gardens offer fragile elegance. The ancient basin echoes with the weight of forgotten history. And the abyss is something else entirely. What makes Hallownest remarkable is how it connects. There are no loading screens, no world maps handed to you for free. The kingdom unfolds through exploration, and every shortcut, every hidden passage, every locked gate that finally opens feels earned. Team Cherry didn't build a game world, they built a place, and it feels like it existed long before you arrived. Every frame of Hollow Knight was drawn by hand. Every character, every background, every flickering moth wing and crumbling temple wall, rendered with the meticulous care of a living illustration. In an era when pixel art dominated the indie scene, Team Cherry chose a different path entirely. Ari Gibson, the studio's artist, brought Hollow Knight to life with flowing ink lines and muted watercolor tones, building a visual language that felt ancient and intimate at once. The Forgotten Crossroads pulse with a sickly orange glow. Green Path breathes with lush emerald canopies that sway gently as you pass. The City of Tears, perhaps the game's most iconic location, weeps endlessly beneath a ceiling of rain, its blue-gray towers rising in quiet grandeur. This art style wasn't just beautiful, it was functional. Every area communicated its identity through color and shape. You always knew where you were, not because of a minimap, but because the world itself was designed to feel distinct and alive. The characters too carried this handcrafted soul. Quirrell, with his thoughtful posture. Hornet, fierce and angular. The knight itself, expressionless, yet somehow overflowing with personality through the subtlest animations. Team Cherry understood something fundamental. In a world built by hand, every detail carries intent. Every brushstroke tells the player, someone made this, someone cared. And when you feel that care, the world stops being a game. It becomes a place you remember. Combat in Hollow Knight is deceptively simple. You have a nail, you swing it. Enemies die, or they don't, and you do. But beneath that simplicity lies a combat system of extraordinary depth and precision. Every encounter is a conversation between patience and aggression, between reading your enemy and trusting your reflexes. The knight moves with a weight that feels deliberate. Your nail has a rhythm, a swing, a beat, a recovery. Healing requires you to stand still and channel soul, the resource you earn by landing hits. It's a brilliant tension. The thing that keeps you alive is also the thing that puts you in danger. Do you heal now and risk the hit, or press the attack and hope your masks hold? As you progress, the charm system adds layers of customization. Equipping different charms changes how you play. Longer nail reach, faster spells, automatic soul collection, companions that fight alongside you. There are dozens of combinations, and the community has spent years debating optimal builds for every challenge the game throws at you. But what truly elevates Hollow Knight's combat is its boss design. Each boss demands something different. Some test your patience, some test your speed, some test your nerve. The game never lets you coast. Every new area brings a new threat, and every threat teaches you something about the knight you've become. By the time you reach the late game, you're not the same player who fumbled through the Forgotten Crossroads. You've been forged. At the heart of Hallownest lies a terrible secret. The kingdom didn't simply fall, it was consumed from the inside out by something called the infection. A brilliant, burning light that seeped into the minds of the kingdom's inhabitants, turning them into mindless, violent husks. The Pale King, Hallownest's ruler, knew this plague was coming. His answer was desperate and monstrous. He created the vessels, hollow beings born from the void of the abyss, designed to contain the infection's source, the Radiance, a forgotten god of dreams and light. The Hollow Knight was chosen, sealed inside the black egg at the kingdom's heart, meant to be an eternal prison for the plague. But the seal failed. The Hollow Knight was not truly hollow. It had thoughts. It had feelings. It had a crack in its perfection, and through that crack, the infection poured back into the world. The kingdom crumbled, its scholars fell, its warriors turned, its people became monsters. And then you arrive. Another vessel, drawn back to Hallownest by an instinct you don't yet understand. The game never tells you this story outright. It hides it in item descriptions, in environmental details, in the cryptic words of dying NPCs. Hollow Knight trusts you to piece together the tragedy on your own. And the story you uncover is devastating. A kingdom undone by pride, a father who sacrificed his own children, and a god who refused to be forgotten. Hollow Knight doesn't want to be completed quickly. It wants to be explored slowly, carefully, with a sense of wonder that most modern games have abandoned. There are no waypoints, no objective markers floating above your head, just a vast interconnected world and the curiosity to see what lies behind the next wall. And oh, what lies behind those walls. Hidden rooms concealed behind breakable surfaces. Entire sub-areas that most players miss on their first run. Grubs trapped in glass jars, crying out for rescue in dozens of secret alcoves. Pale ore hidden in the most treacherous corners of the map. A mysterious figure named Mr. Mushroom, who appears only if you know exactly where to look. The map system reinforces this philosophy brilliantly. Cornifer, the wandering cartographer, sells you incomplete maps of each zone, but only if you can find him first. Until then, you're navigating blind, relying on memory and instinct. It's a design choice that would be infuriating in a lesser game, but in Hollow Knight, it's transformative. Getting lost isn't a failure, it's how you find something you weren't looking for. Stag stations connect the kingdom's far corners, but they're rewards, not defaults. Every shortcut you unlock, every bench you discover, every dark corridor that opens into a familiar room. These moments of recognition are what make Hallownest feel like a real place. You don't remember it as a series of levels, you remember it as a journey. The bosses of Hollow Knight are not obstacles. They are events. Each one is a handcrafted encounter designed to test a specific aspect of your skill, and each one tells a story through combat alone. The False Knight is your first real test, a stolen suit of armor swung by a desperate maggot, teaching you that enemies in Hallownest are not always what they seem. Hornet arrives like a storm, fast and aggressive, forcing you to respect speed for the first time. The Mantis Lords are a masterclass in precision, a synchronized duel that the community regards as one of the finest boss fights in any game. Soul Master punishes greed. Dung Defender rewards persistence. The Watcher Knights overwhelm you with numbers. And then there's the Traitor Lord, hidden deep in the Queen's Gardens, who demands you use every ability you've earned. But it's the optional bosses that define Hollow Knight's ceiling. The Nightmare King Grim moves with impossible speed, leaving you fractions of a second to react. The Pure Vessel strips away forgiveness entirely. A flawless fight against a flawless foe. And the Absolute Radiance, the final challenge of the Godmaster content, is widely regarded as one of the hardest boss fights ever created. What makes these encounters unforgettable isn't just their difficulty, it's their personality. Every boss has a presence, a rhythm, a reason for being. They aren't damage sponges, they're characters. And defeating them feels like earning their respect. If Hollow Knight's art gave the world its shape, then Christopher Larkin's music gave it its soul. From the very first notes that greet you in Dirtmouth, a lonely piano melody drifting through cold air, you understand that this is not just a soundtrack, it is a eulogy for a fallen kingdom. Larkin composed the entire score himself, drawing from orchestral traditions and chamber music to create something that feels far larger than a two-person project should allow. Each region carries its own voice. Greenpath hums with gentle strings and warm woodwinds, a lullaby for the living world above the ruins. Crystal Peak shimmers with glassy percussion, cold and bright. And then there is the City of Tears, a composition so achingly beautiful that players would stand still on a bench just listening. Rain falling against stone, a cello weeping in long, slow phrases. It is the sound of grandeur mourning its own decline. But Larkin's brilliance extends beyond beauty. The silence matters just as much. In the deepest parts of the abyss, in the suffocating corridors of Deepnest, the music pulls away, leaving you alone with the ambient hum of a world that feels hostile to your very presence. That contrast between soaring melody and hollow quiet is what makes the sound design so effective. Christopher Larkin didn't just score a game, he composed a requiem for Hallownest, and in doing so, gave players something they would carry with them long after the final boss had fallen. Most studios would have moved on after launch. The game was a success. The reviews were stellar, the money was coming in. But Team Cherry didn't move on. Instead, they did something remarkable. They kept building, and they gave it all away for free. The Hidden Dreams update arrived first, adding new boss encounters and quality of life improvements. Then came the Grim Troop, an entire storyline woven into the existing world, complete with one of the game's most iconic characters, the enigmatic Grim, a nightmare performer whose boss fight became an instant classic. His Nightmare King variant remains one of the most demanding encounters in the entire game. Lifeblood followed with technical improvements and rebalanced encounters. And then, the crown jewel, Godmaster, a massive content pack that added the God Home, a pantheon of boss rush challenges that tested even the most hardened veterans. The Hall of Gods let you practice any boss at will. The pantheons demanded you defeat them all in sequence, with no room for error. And at the summit, the absolute Radiance. A fight so brutal, so unforgiving, that completing it became a badge of honor within the community. 4 free content packs, dozens of new bosses, new areas, new endings, new lore. Team Cherry treated their players with a generosity that felt almost defiant in an era of season passes and paid DLC. They'd promised a game and they delivered a legacy. Hollow Knight didn't just find an audience, it built a community, a passionate, creative, deeply invested community that has kept the game alive and thriving years after its release. Speedrunners dissected the game frame by frame, discovering skips and techniques that turned a 40-hour adventure into a sub-30-minute sprint. Lore theorists debated the meaning of every inscription, every cryptic NPC dialogue, every environmental detail, constructing elaborate maps of Hallownest's history that rivaled academic scholarship. Artists and musicians produced thousands of fan works, reimagining the game's characters in every conceivable style. The modding community added new content, new bosses, new areas, and entirely new gameplay modes. Randomizers shuffled item locations, turning familiar territory into fresh challenges. And through it all, Team Cherry's silence about their next project, Hollow Knight Silksong, only fueled the community's devotion. Every screenshot, every trailer frame, every offhand comment became the subject of forensic analysis. But perhaps the most telling sign of Hollow Knight's legacy is its influence on the games that followed. The Metroidvania genre exploded after its release. Developers cited it as an inspiration for everything from art direction to world design to difficulty philosophy. It proved that a small team with a clear vision could compete at the highest level. Hollow Knight didn't just succeed, it raised the bar for indie games, for Metroidvanias, and for what 3 people with a dream could achieve. Every great journey needs an ending. And Hollow Knight gives you not one, but several. Each one a different answer to the question the game has been asking all along. What does it mean to be hollow? The first ending is tragic. You take the Hollow Knight's place inside the Black Egg, becoming the new vessel, the new seal. The infection is contained, but not destroyed. The cycle continues. Hallownest remains in stasis and you are its prisoner. The second ending demands more. You confront the Radiance directly, the ancient god of light who has been feeding the plague, and you destroy her. The chains break. The Black Egg shatters. The night dissolves into void, having fulfilled a purpose it never chose. It's a victory, but one tinged with loss. And then there's the true ending. The dream no more ending, where you confront the source of all suffering and unmake it completely. The Radiance screams, burns, and fades. The void recedes. Hallownest is finally truly free. And the knight, the little knight who walked through a ruined kingdom and never once spoke a word, is gone. What remains is silence. Dirtmouth sits quietly above the ruins. The rain still falls in the city of tears. And somewhere, in the spaces between dream and void, a story has ended. Not with a bang, not with triumph, but with the quiet grace of something finally at peace. Hollow Knight doesn't need you to say it's a masterpiece. It simply is.